Okay, Mr. Dave. We are live. Episode 11?
Yeah. Team House, Jack and Dave, take one. Episode 11, take one. Right? Episode 11?
This is episode 11. This is it.
The Team House, Jack and Dave.
Dave and Jack.
Dave and Jack.
The Dave Park Show.
The Dave Park Show. Episode 11, take one.
There you go. Done. Yeah. Okay, good. We're streaming. Doesn't seem any big technical hiccups this time around.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
We're getting there, guys. Almost there.
We're cruising along. It's coming along. I sent an email to that guy we met, the dude who has a technical background in live streaming.
Oh.
I haven't heard back from him yet. Get him in here and have him dial things in a little bit for us.
Nice. Yeah, we met a guy at Comic-Con who does...
He's like an expert.
Yeah.
Knows his shit backwards and front.
So he says. We'll put him through the test.
Yeah, well, we'll see. He comes in here and then it still looks like shit afterwards.
Right, we'll know. We'll know.
The first thing I just wanted to put out real quick was for our Patreon supporters for the channel, I got the second video interview up.
Okay, fantastic.
And it is with another Special Forces veteran, a retired warrant officer who I interviewed. Pretty amazing dude.
Also from Det A or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's up, and for our Patreon supporters, you can go watch it whenever you want. It's there. It seems like they really enjoy that, and every time I put a new one up, we get a whole bunch of new subscribers.
Oh, fantastic!
So people are enjoying it.
Yeah.
So I'm glad that we can bring a little bit of added value, and yeah, I hope. Those interviews are just like a treasure trove of history.
I bet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we should. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we're since there's kind of a hit, I think we should do more of them.
Yeah.
And we'll see how to work that out.
Okay.
Just doing sit down interviews with people.
Yeah.
Yes, people are enjoying those. I'm just gonna put the link out here on.
For the Patreon.
Yeah, oh no for that we're streaming. So people can come check it out if they're interested.
And why wouldn't you?
Yeah, why wouldn't you? Come on. Don't you want to watch two, white guys in a basement in Brooklyn bullshitting about random things for 2.5 hours? Who wouldn't want to watch that? Come on.
That sounds like, it's either us or your neighborhood bar, right? Where can you get that kind of action?
So yeah, otherwise, there's a lot of stuff going on in the world these days. We're living in perilous times.
Are we?
Fire and brimstone.
Is this the worst time ever?
It's
in the history of the world?
This is literally the worst period of history that the human race has ever experienced. Right now, America is at its worst.
Yeah.
It has never been this bad.
No, I can, it's...
Through 2 world wars, a civil war, a Great Depression, it's never been this bad.
Yeah.
But that said, before we go into all this serious, depressing war shit, I do have a comic book icebreaker for you.
Oh, nice.
Okay, so the Association of the United States Army has been started producing a comic book, a Medal of Honor series, and each comic is 8 pages, and each is a vignette of the combat action that led to a Medal of Honor recipient.
Fantastic.
So there's one on Alvin York, there's one on Audie Murphy, there's one on Roy Benavidez, there's one on a GWAT era soldier. I'm sorry, I can't remember the gentleman's name right now. So they're all really good, and as I was going through, I talked to somebody at the Association of the United States Army today, and about kind of how it came together, and they said the reaction has been really good. People are really enthusiastic about it.
Yeah.
And I saw that the writer on it was Chuck Dixon.
Really?
Who's, he was a pretty like kind of legendary comic book writer. He wrote Batman. He wrote, he's the creator of Bane. So Chuck's a cool, and it was funny because I've talked to Chuck before, at least on the internet.
Yeah.
He's a nice guy. And so he wrote it, and since the Association for the Army, they said that they're going to do another 4 issues. And I asked Chuck, I was like, "Are you coming back for that?" And he was like, "Oh yeah, we have a good team. Him, the artist and the letterer, working out really good. So there's going to be at least another 4 issues."
It'd be great to get him on here and talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, and like many things, once we like figure out how to do that professionally, I think I could I could probably twist his arm a little bit and get Chuck to come on.
Yeah. No, it's interesting that the Army is doing, the association's doing that. I was talking to a guy at Comic-Con who was talking about diamond comics, or I can't remember the term, but they're stamped generally with like a star on the front, or was it a star or a diamond? But a star. What they are is they're comic books, U.S. comic books that were sold in Europe, like especially like during World War II. And, or maybe they weren't World War II, I can't remember. Maybe it was just they were overseas. I'm going to have to get more into the history of that. But they were sold to U.S. soldiers, basically. They were sold out of PXs and things like that. And the reason they're called diamond comics is because they had ads for diamonds in them, like rings and whatnot, so that these guys could basically rip out these ads and like send this in somehow, and then get a diamond ring for their gal back in the States and whatnot. So apparently they're pretty rare, and they're pretty sought after.
Interesting.
Yeah, and I had not heard of those before.
No, me neither.
So
wow. I mean, yeah, that's a little slice of history right there.
Yeah, for sure.
And and one other thing on the Medal of Honor comics, I forgot to mention. They're 100% free to go read. You can go download the PDF, or you can read it on the web. Just like type in like Medal of Honor comic books, it'll come right up.
Wow.
So they're absolutely free to read. You can go check it out right now if you want.
What is your opinion on awards like the Medal of Honor and the Silver Star and Legion of Merit and things like that are stripped for reasons? Let's say the guy gets out, commits a crime or whatever, and has his...
Did they do that?
I think it's been done before.
Really?
Mm-hmm. I think it's been done before.
No, I've never heard of that. I mean, I've heard of decorations being stripped, like guys like losing their SEAL Trident or their SF tab, or something like that.
Yeah. No, I think there are some. I shouldn't speak out without knowing for sure, but I feel like I've heard that before.
I mean, I would imagine it'd be damn hard to like retroactively go back in time and strip someone of an award.
Yeah.
Like you never hear of someone like losing their Ranger tab because it's an award.
Right.
Like you went through the school, you were awarded this thing.
Oh, let's.
You're gonna bust out Google?
Yeah, let me see.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, anybody watching, have you ever heard of that? Have you ever heard of somebody being, stripped of a medal citation? Because that is pretty crazy.
So we talked about this a little bit, but I bought a new iPhone, and this
guy says it seems like the only thing you can take from them is their compensation. Yeah, that's true.
So the Duffel blog obviously reported on somebody being stripped, Duffel blog. Can a Congressional Medal of Honor be stripped by dishonorable discharge? Short answer, yes, in certain circumstances. Long answer, here's what the U.S. says about it. I wonder if it's ever happened.
Yeah, I mean, I remember there was a Vietnam veteran who declined the Medal of Honor, and it was a big controversy at the time. It was like something that had never happened before.
So it doesn't look like it's happened.
Yeah, that's one of those things. That'd be like a massive shit show.
Yeah.
DOD would not want to put itself through unless it absolutely had to. You know, they wouldn't want the bad publicity of just like going through that whole process, especially if the guy tries to challenge it in court.
So apparently in 1917 there was a mass when the Army took back the Congressional Medal of Honor. Almost 1,000 aging veterans that they weren't qualified. So this was a while ago.
All right. Well, we'll have to do some research on that one.
Yeah.
And figure that all out. One other thing that a little controversy coming up. A little controversy. And you know we love controversy.
Who doesn't, right?
We talked about this this woman previously, Amaryllis Fox, who claims to be a CIA non-official cover officer and all sorts of other weird stuff. And her book came out, so she's been doing like the media rounds and stuff like that. And I just like called it out, you know, on Twitter this time. I was like, how come no one's heard of her ever? Like, just no one I've talked to, other sources I have, other contacts I have, like, they have not heard of her, and their contacts have not heard of her. So it's like, what in the world is going on? I haven't heard anyone come forward and be like, yes, I worked with this person.
Well,
or like, yes, this person is for real.
So was she just a knock? Was that her thing? And I don't mean just a knock, but was she only a knock?
She claims she went through the farm as a young woman, and they made her put her under non-official cover as an art dealer working in China. And she's got all kinds of other stories about Pakistan and all sorts of like weird stuff.
How would she get in Pakistan? I'm doing as an art dealer.
Bro, there's a lot of things that I am challenged to explain, and I think a lot of other people are as well. There was an article in the New York Times that came out, I think, yesterday, and I mean it's kind of surreal to read. I'm just trying to pull it up right now. I have it here. You know, it's a very odd article if you go and take a look for it. But yeah, she says she's traveling the world posing as an art dealer while she recruited arms dealers as assets and tried to talk to extremists out of detonating dirty bombs. She tells the story in her memoir, Life Undercover, Coming of Age in the CIA. What else is in here? She was going to Oxford, getting her master's degree. Then she decided to go to get her master's degree in conflict and terrorism at the School of Foreign Services at Georgetown. As a part of the program, she designed an algorithm, ratio of hookah bars to madrasas and percentage beneath a livable wage a border guard gets paid. To identify likely terrorist safe havens, the CIA headquarters in Langley, Virginia heard about the algo and recruited Ms. Fox, who at 22 became one of the youngest female officers. The agency assigned her to non-official cover, meaning an agent must live abroad in the most dangerous places on the planet, the planet has to offer under a false identity with no diplomatic protections or official passport, she writes. The author of the article describes the book as that it reads as if John Le Carre character landed in Eat, Pray, Love. Fast and thrilling. Yeah, it goes on, you know, she was in Shanghai, her and her husband had to live this like double life. I read this other article where the government told her she had to have sex with her husband, but like don't make it too hot, but make it regular, but not too regular. Like they were trying to tell her how to have marital relations with her husband. Like, it gets weirder and weirder.
What?
Yeah, as you delve down into you drill down.
You know,
into the story.
More couples should go to work for the CIA if the CIA is going to tell them to have sex.
Yeah. Like,
I mean, honestly, like
you got to keep it regular.
If you're having like a cold period, it's like, honey, you know, I think we need something. Not counseling. We should join the CIA.
Right. Like here's the calendar.
Yeah.
These red X's are the days that you must perform. So look, I am happy to correct the record or correct my own words. If anyone who actually worked at the agency or somebody in some official capacity wants to come forward and say, yes, this woman worked there and her story is legit,
Right.
I will apologize. But as it stands...
What's her background in art, though? That's the thing. Like, how did she become an art dealer? Because from what I've heard, like, knocks get hired, generally based on their expertise, right? So they're not going to put you in an accounting position in a corporation if you're not an accountant, if you don't know how to be an accountant, because you actually have to do the job.
Yes. Yeah, and I'm, without saying too much, yeah, why would a knock even be an art dealer?
Yeah, I don't know, because they don't have access to anything.
No, and like, I mean, I guess they could move things and they could move money around, but it's really not ideal.
No, and here's the thing: was she already an art dealer? Because
it said she went to Oxford and then she went to Georgetown and got recruited right out of it.
Because it seems to me that if the agency needed somebody in that position, they would approach like an active an active art dealer, and say, hey, it's like if they need a locksmith, somebody who knows how to pick locks. They don't just grab somebody out of college and then try to teach them how to pick locks. They go to an actual locksmith and go, hey, would you be interested in working for the government?
It's it goes on and on about how she, was meeting with people and a perilous, going alone to a perilous meeting in Pakistan, and then all the stuff came out that her book did not go through the PRB, the Public Review Board.
Right.
Now, if you, unlike, the military that has some latitude, because of the documents you sign when you join the CIA, if you write pretty much anything about the agency that doesn't go through the PRB, they do not fuck around at all.
Right.
You will go to jail.
Yeah.
And according to this article, her book did not go through the PRB, and she justifies it as saying, well, it's a coming of age story, not an operational story.
No.
Even though she's clearly talking about cover and tradecraft and things like this that are protected sources and methods. So yeah, like I said, I will correct the record if Petraeus or Hayden or Brennan want to come forward and say, Jack, you got it wrong.
Yeah.
But failing that, I'm throwing my bullshit flag.
Yeah.
I'm throwing my bullshit flag at this whole story.
See, in times like this, I feel like I should read the book, but then again, I don't want to. That's like 2 days of my life that I can't get back. I could be reading comics.
I would normally agree with you, Dave. I think that you need to read the book to criticize the book, but in this case, it's just so much off the wall, batshit craziness. It would just be a waste of my time to read this thing.
That's how I feel. What was the other book we were talking about? Surprise, Kill, Finish, or whatever.
Or Surprise, Kill, Vanish.
Surprise, Kill, Vanish. So I've never heard of this book until I stumbled across a snippet of a Joe Rogan interview with the author, and she's like, she talks about this paramilitary officer, I assume, who comes out, one of her sources, who comes out to visit her and happens to be back, back on his way from a trip from overseas, happens to have his weapons with him, right? Because apparently he just stepped off a flight and now threw his weapons in his car and, driving wherever. So, he pulls out a sniper rifle, and first off, she's talking about, she can see the veins on a leaf from across the valley with the scope, and it's like, what freaking magnification scope was that? But then says that he pulls out. She's like, "What's in that case?" And he goes, "Oh," and he opens it up, and what's in the case, Jack?
The Rambo knife.
The knife. There's a knife in the case. The guy had a separate case just for this knife, and he says, when things happen, when I have to be silent, or when sometimes the work has to be up close, or
I don't know its name. I just know the sound it makes when it touches the man's life.
So exactly.
I mean, I don't often like try to put the stomp on other authors or like put the kibosh on books, because it's like writers are kind of like, we have like a bad reputation for being dicks and just like trashing each other.
Sure.
Like I try not to do that, but like every once in a while, like this Amaryllis Fox book comes around, it's just like you almost feel like you have to say something.
Well, I mean, look, sometimes there are things that are just so ludicrous. And I'm not saying, like, I haven't read her book. I don't know her as a person. I've never heard of her, which isn't surprising as a knock. You know, like, you know, knocks aren't known to, you know, like, their knocks are super, like, you know, it's supposed to be a super, super classified program and whatnot. But also, how could she pose as an art dealer if she hadn't been an art dealer? Like, that's the thing about a knock, is knocks are supposed to like know their stuff in another industry. There was and I have no idea if this was true, but there was another journalist who was making a claim that that yes, her story is bullshit, but her connection to the agency is that, and what she claims in the book, this much is true, that she was married to an agency employee, to an officer. Okay.
So she was probably overseas, you know, under some sort of cover as his wife.
Sure. Sure.
And everything else in the book would be
crap.
Fantastical,
right.
You know, flights of fantasy. So yeah, man, that's a weird one.
So what does that mean for all the women married to Green Beret Rangers, SEALs?
And she's also she's married to a Kennedy, the RFK's son.
Oh, now she is?
Yeah.
So her previous husband, the one that did all this undercover stuff with her, this knock stuff, they're not together anymore.
Right.
Well, that makes it convenient.
Yeah, man. Oh, so some people in the comments are saying, yeah, Congress revoked medals of honor that were given to civilians and women in the 19th century.
Okay.
It says Buffalo Bill Cody was a civilian scout and he had his Medal of Honor pulled.
Wow. I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's crazy. Someone's asking about the book Grey Work. And because that was a huge fraud. Yeah, and like I wrote an article about that book. It was Jamie, oh my gosh. And there's like a long article out there about the author too. It's in like Outdoor Magazine or something. Long article about this guy, Grey Work. You claim to be like a contractor.
I've never heard
doing all this like shady stuff.
Really?
Yeah. And I wrote something about the book, about how it was bullshit. And it was funny because the day after I published it, I got a call from somebody I know. And he was like, dude, this guy was in my office like 2 days ago trying to sell me shit. I was like, what, really? He's like, yeah. And he was traveling around the greater New York City area under an assumed name, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. And if you read that article, and I'm sorry I can't remember the name of it, or the title of this article was published like probably 3 or 4 years ago. It's about him like defrauding this couple out of a lot of money. And yeah, it's bad.
Grey Work. Nice. I'm going to write a book called Plaid Work. Life and Times of a Shepherd.
It's like, also, like, man, why did I like waste all my time writing a book that, is truthful to the best of my ability? I should have just written a pack of lies, and like I'd have a.
But you have, and they're the Deckard books. You know what I mean? I mean that's what it is. Yeah. Like that's what.
But that's the appropriate way to do that.
Right.
This is a novel. This is fun.
Right.
You can read it. You know.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one thing to write, fiction that you call fiction. And it's another thing to write something that you claim to be autobiographical. Yeah. And then when you get busted, oh no, it was just fiction. No. It was just kind of like.
Yeah, there was. I actually saw another article. It was about a Trump advisor, like one of his so-called China experts, and he's written a whole bunch of books about China or about economics and things like that. And I think he is an economist. And one of the sources throughout his books turned out to be fictitious. It was him, and it was actually him speaking through this fictional character.
Sure.
Yeah, and it was the same thing. Like, oh, you got me. It was fiction,
Right. Well, it's funny because one of the New York Times opinion writers, I think, just wrote that article, conversation with a Trump supporter or whatever. Did you hear about that?
No, I didn't.
So he essentially writes this, and I think he says it's fictional.
With a fictional Trump
with a
supporter.
fictional Trump supporter. So he's not even asking an actual Trump supporter, why do you support Trump? He's just like projecting everything that he thinks.
He's like in conversation with him?
Yeah.
But see, what's the point of even writing that? Because like you can hop right on the interwebs and you can have the most wazoo, insane conversations
100%. 100%.
You don't got to make it up.
Right. The thing is, like, he was trying to, from his perspective, like say, these are why people, this is why people voted for Trump. Yeah, we knew he was evil, but he was the lesser of two evils, stuff like that, right? But it's not like you can't find a Trump supporter to actually have that conversation with.
Yeah, it's not
so weird.
Yeah, it's not like a difficult source to find.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
So basically, they're paying a New York Times writer to write fiction instead of like actually.
It's like Donald Trump fan fiction.
Yeah, it's exactly what it is. Yeah, he shipped Donald Trump with Hillary.
I know that, everyone hates journalism and journalists and all that stuff, but the New York Times does have some very good reporting in it. But I'll be the first to tell you, I think their opinion section is atrocious.
Yeah.
I mean, just horrendously bad.
Well, their reporting, I think, has been suffering as of late also,
Well, I mean, they're reporting, everyone's reporting.
Sure.
I mean, there's having a profitable news outlet is like almost impossible nowadays. I think the only one that makes money is the Daily Mail. And I mean, that's basically a tabloid. So
yeah,
it's, in a lot of ways, it sometimes feels like, where record labels were, in like the 1990s or like where publishers were, or like book publishers were as like the Kindle and ebooks started getting big.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think journalism has been in that place for the last, 20 years almost.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen, I think, especially since sort of the dawn of clickbait, the internet and advertising and clickbait, for a long time, you saw the rise of these media empires, Gawker and Vice and all these, Splinter, I don't remember all of them, but that were basically living just on clickbait. But as the age of outrage dies, as people are just, like they have outrage fatigue now, none of these websites can sustain anymore because people are tired of it.
I mean, is there like some data to support that like people are burned out? Like, I know they're burned out, but are they still clicking on it? That's my
Well, I mean, I would say that if you look at all the layoffs, Huffington Post, like almost all these media outlets have had major layoffs because they're losing money. I mean, Gawker.
Yeah, but again, they're all losing money. Even the ones that aren't doing clickbait, that are doing.
I don't know that are all of them like
they're all underwater, man.
Yeah.
Like ABC, I know is underwater.
Well, I think that comes down to an issue of trust. I think that people are getting, are finding independent sources that aren't clickbaity, that aren't, whether that's on the internet, like on YouTube, whether they're watching, liberals like Jimmy Dore or Tim Pool or.
But that stuff's clickbaity as fuck. I mean, it's like super clickbaity.
Well, I guess it is, but it's also, I think that.
But I think you're onto something though, that it's a question of trust though. Because people trust those people.
Yeah.
So they go to them.
So, I mean, they trust them to give a more balanced view, I believe, because you have your liberals, you have your conservatives, like, the Rubin Report, but Rubin, I don't know if he's more liberal or more conservative. I think he tends to be, I think he defines himself as a liberal, but he comes off more conservative. Crowder, more conservative. Like, Jimmy Dore, very, very liberal. Very, very liberal, but also very principled, in his approach. I believe, I feel. He's an outright socialist, but, but he doesn't hide it, and he doesn't. It's not like, I don't think he tries to necessarily spin stuff.
Right.
Two people can disagree on what they feel the better form of government is. and they can still be honest about,
Yeah.
about what's actually happening in the world.
Yeah, man. I know we've like had this conversation, and everyone's had this conversation at this point, but like I don't think anyone knows what like the way forward is or what that's going to look like.
No, I don't know. Yeah, but I do feel as though like outrage culture, I feel like Twitter's starting to lose some of its power. I mean, it hasn't lost its power, the Twitter outrage crowd, but I feel like it's starting to. I feel like when they, I think Dave Chappelle is a perfect example of this. They charge full steam ahead and they hit a brick wall.
Right.
Like they're not getting Netflix to take it down. And Netflix is a very, I think, liberal, like a lot of their programming is full on social justice.
It was the same thing, and I know this is kind of like a meme, but I mean, I feel like there's some truth to it that like with that Joker movie, that there are all these media outlets were like, come on, do a mass shooting. Do a mass shooting. Like how come the reactionaries aren't going to the movie theater and shooting everybody over this movie?
Yeah.
And it's like, what are you guys doing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They need it. They salivate, and what's funny is like there was something in New York, because a buddy of mine told me this, who was at the theater at the time. Some guy, I think, got kind of drunk or whatever, and was like laughing at, inappropriate moments, like ha ha ha, like laughing really loud and stuff like that. And he got removed from the theater,
Really?
and I guess the police came, and there was either a New York Times, New York Post article about it, and whatever, like
really warrants it.
Like that was their big thing.
Yeah.
And I go, well, like they were looking, they were looking for a white guy to really kind of mess up, and that's what they found. And my buddy goes, oh, he wasn't white, and I go, oh, and I go, did they mention that in the article? Just because they would have mentioned it had he been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's like, no, they didn't mention it. It's like, so
it's desperation.
It is. And what's so crazy is like, growing up like in the 80s, I don't remember like racism, or I don't even want to say racism. I want to say race focus. You know what I mean? Like we had like Aerosmith and Run DMC do a song together, and Michael Jackson and Paul McCartney do Ebony. Like there was this. It was supposed to be this time of like kind of coming together and stuff like that. Like the media now has made it so divisive. They thrive on it.
It's so bad that like I feel like everyone starts self-censoring themselves, and it's not even about. It's like I don't think I'm a racist. I don't want to say anything discriminatory
or keep anybody from an opportunity
or something to hurt people. But I feel like we can't even just have like an honest conversation because there's gonna be. I love you guys, but there's gonna be a crazy, malicious person out there that's gonna watch this.
Yeah.
Like that. What was that? That Bill Barr show that you were watching the other day, and he's like, "This is why you can't judge comedians.
Yeah.
Every one of you heard what I said.
Yeah.
Did you just hear what that dumb motherfucker actually heard?
Yeah.
It's something completely different.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then what that results in, it's like a like 1984 or something, and like we can't even talk anymore.
Right.
It's kind of like, oh boy.
But but isn't that the goal of fascism in whatever form it takes? Is to make people afraid to talk.
Yeah.
Right.
That you're under surveillance all the time.
Right.
You know you're under surveillance.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, what's funny is now in this media, in this culture of social media, we willingly place ourselves under surveillance. We are right now broadcasting live to the world. So, like, we're volunteering to be under surveillance.
Yeah, we could just turn all this shit off.
Right.
And, I could throw my phone in a fishbowl.
Right.
And,
Right.
be done
100%.
Yeah.
So, we are partly responsible for this.
Yeah.
But it's also, like what's happened to YouTube, what's happened to Facebook, what's happened to these organizations, and the idea of censorship has just been dramatic, And, and there's an excellent argument in terms of, especially for like Twitter, or like, are they allowed to censor? And on one end, and on one end you can say, well, they're a business, so they are allowed to do whatever they want. But there are a couple different arguments. One, all these companies have put themselves forward as as platforms and not publishers, right? So they're not responsible for the content. If they're a publisher, they're responsible for the content. If they're a platform, they're not. Well, if they don't want to be responsible for the content, they can't edit content. Right? So, so there are these ideas of where's the boundary for them, and are they trying to play it fast and loose with these definitions? The other thing is like like for instance, AT&T. If you, for instance, have belong to a group that is not, politically acceptable to the owners of AT&T, is AT&T as a public utility allowed to no longer give you phone service?
Right. And I think, John Robb made this interesting point that people are kind of cheering that type of behavior on because it's filling a perceived gap in morality that our government leaves behind. Like, they feel our government should come in and like, oh, stop saying that, stop doing that.
Right.
But since they can't because we have the Bill of Rights, they're using corporations to go in and try to strip people of things we take for granted.
Right. Well, and it's crazy because like when you were,
deplatforming,
and when you see all these people, especially on the left right now, I would say that it's happened on the right too with morality, sort of the whole, moral majority stuff, and banning books and whatnot. But now on the left, you see even like all these college students, like, we don't think free speech, we don't think that free speech is a big deal. Like, there are certain things that just should be said. Like words are hate. Hate speech and words can be violent and speech can be violent, and it's like they don't understand
that there's going to be people. It's very strange for people like that to say that they want their government to crack down on speech when you're saying, from that perspective, you're saying that our president is a Nazi.
Right.
And you want to hand over powers to that guy to censor speech.
Right.
I don't know if that's a good idea.
Right. And the idea that I'm in the right and I'm always going to be in the right. So you can take away all the freedoms that I don't care about because my freedoms will be intact.
When you really start questioning people like that and digging down into what they believe, it really is, I want all of the things I disagree with banned.
Right.
And it's like, whoa, have you thought this through?
Right.
And of course they haven't.
Right.
Every time.
Right.
They've not put any thought, and it's just utopian.
Well, and it's just so obvious to them. It's just so obvious. Well, of course, this is hate speech. You're a Nazi, so why wouldn't we want to get rid of you? It's like, whoa, slow down.
Let's take a step back from all of this.
Yeah.
Man. And I think, take all of these, the culture wars going on and then combine it with some of the other stuff that's going on right now. I'm always very hesitant to come across as alarmist, but I would not be surprised if 12 months from now we found ourselves in some sort of constitutional crisis with a lot of the zany stuff going on.
Well, define what you mean by constitutional crisis.
I don't know. Well, a question of how our Constitution is being interpreted, but how that comes about, I'm not sure.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that I feel like we're heading down some pretty dark paths. Did you see this, for instance, this letter that Trump sent to President Erdogan?
I have not.
I think anyone can go and Google it, but it's right here. And I just bring this up because it makes me wonder what the hell is going on.
Right.
In the White House, either they leaked or released this letter. I think they leaked it to a journalist. He wrote this letter to Erdogan the day before he invaded Syria. He says, "Let's work out a deal!" ! You don't want to be responsible for slaughtering thousands of people, and I don't want to be responsible for destroying the Turkish economy, and I will. I've already given you a little sample with respect to Pastor Brunson, who was a political prisoner in Turkey. I've worked hard to solve some of your problems. Don't let the world down. You can make a great deal. General Masloom was willing to negotiate with you, and he's willing to make concessions that they would never have made in the past. I am confidentially enclosing a copy of his letter to me, just received. History will look upon you favorably if you get this done the right and humane way. It will look upon you forever as the devil if good things don't happen. Don't be a tough guy. Don't be a fool. I will call you later. Sincerely, Donald Trump. It's like, I read this letter and I'm like, what's going on inside this dude's brain? When someone who talks like that, like a head of state writing a letter to another head of state, like they had to like actually like go and like ask the White House, like, is this letter real? Like, are we being trolled right now?
Right.
And it's just like, bro.
I don't. But the thing is, I like that letter. I do.
It speaks to the everyman.
I like the letter because there's nothing flowery about it. There's nothing political. I mean, it's political, but there's nothing, politically correct about it. It's not, it's like written from one person to another person. And that's one of the things that.
Dave, if you wrote that letter to me, I'd ask you, like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, were you drunk? If you were, I'd understand.
So maybe Trump was drunk. I don't know.
I mean, smoking some doobies.
I like the letter. I like it.
That's the kind of letter you would write if you were president. You would write that to the president of Turkey.
I don't know, man. I mean, that's like telling a dude in the bar, like, hey, straighten your shit up. Like, straighten up.
Okay, and do you know what Erdogan did?
What?
He completely ignored this and invaded Syria.
You can't control what other people are going to do.
No, you can't. But you can engage in diplomacy, and that was not really it.
What should the letter have said?
The letter could have said anything, any number of different things, any number of different ways. But this sort of like, fire and brimstone, don't be a tough guy, don't be a fool. It's like Mickey Mouse. It's like a Tom and Jerry cartoon.
Do you honestly expect anything different than that from Trump right now?
I'm not saying I expect better from a president of the United States of America.
Well, but we're talking about Trump.
We are.
You know what I'm saying? It's like, would I have written a letter like that? No. Probably not. I don't know. I'm amused by his antics.
I mean, I would be amused except that, like, people are dying over this shit. Like, it's pretty fucked up.
But see, he was already planning on invading. Like,
he was planning on invading.
So the thing is that, we know that a well-crafted, well-spoken letter about the merits of not invading, like, we don't know that people are dying over this. He was already.
I'm not saying partially. This letter is part of an exchange between the United States and Turkey.
Sure.
That people are dying over.
Sure,
yes.
Sure.
It's actually a major shitstorm over there.
Yeah.
We actually blew up our own base today. The one we had. I never mentioned it until now. The cement factory in Syria. It's a French cement factory. I knew our guys were there for years.
Yeah.
But I never said where it was because I'm not trying to put a bullseye in anyone's head. But
yeah.
Evac everyone out of there, like, as quickly as possible. Flew F-15s over it and blew up the ammo bunker today.
Yeah.
Because we didn't have time to get any of that shit out of there.
Yeah.
Like, dude, this is a fucking mess.
Yeah.
It's really a mess.
I don't know, man.
I mean, I get it. It's like, like Trump is a 70-year-old troll.
He's a 70-year-old, 3-year-old. I mean,
but at the same time, like, there's a lot of like damage that is being done in the midst of his trolling.
Again, is this trolling? I'm not supporting it because I find myself in in this position of like trying to, I don't know, defend him, but I'm not trying to defend him. I don't think that letter was appropriate, obviously. But at least the guy is clear about his intent. I mean,
he said he's going to wreck Turkey's economy. He gave him a little sanctions. I mean, it's not even clear, and that's why Erdogan laughed at it.
Yeah.
Because there's nothing there. It's just fluff.
maybe.
No, I mean it is. Like we know now.
Yeah.
It's just fluff.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. It's hard to compare because we don't see what other presidents send out. And I know, and look, and I'm
We
sure
definitely have.
I'm
You
sure
go to the presidential.
I'm sure that they're not
archives.
sending stuff like this. You know, I'm sure. So anyway, now do you think it's stuff like this that will cause a constitutional crisis?
Not this letter specifically, and not even Syria. I think that. But I just look at like what's been going on with his behavior the last couple of weeks. And I'm just like, he's deteriorating quite quickly.
Yeah.
And it's a little frightening to see like where that could be going.
Yeah, that's what I'm worried about that too, because and part of it I think is look, he's been under attack since he took his and that's got to take a toll on him.
And now there's the impeachment thing looming over him.
Yeah.
Like we talked about last time, they're going to dog him with that through the whole.
Well, they've been dogging. Like it's not like they found, or it's not like this call happened and they immediately start, or they suddenly start talking about impeachment. Like impeachment has been on their lips. Like we've been talking about impeachment from the first day of his presidency. So if it's not this, if this turns out to be a nothing burger, then they're just going to roll over to the next thing.
I agree. I absolutely agree.
And that's got to wear on anybody. And and he's always been just I don't want to say unstable because I don't think that's fair, but he's always been impulsive. You know what I mean. Like, I remember during one of the debates where they talked about terrorists, and he's like, well, I would just have the, U.S. soldiers go execute them and blah, blah, blah. And they're like, well, you can't make, U.S. soldiers, execute people. That's against, well, they'd have to because I'm the president. It's like, and that's not how that works.
Yeah, I think there's a very, I've said this in the past, this presidency is going to be studied, for a long time, for many decades, for many different reasons.
Right.
And I think one of them is, Trump was seen, and perhaps is in many ways the quintessential outsider, right?
Yeah.
Like he was like a foreign body that the system rejected.
Yeah.
But even then, he, I think, has been very frustrated as he learns what the limitations are of the office of the president. And in my mind, what it clearly shows us is, the balance of power and the three branches of government, and the limits of even presidential power.
Yeah.
I think people are going to look at that and study it for quite a while.
Yeah. No, it's interesting, and like I said, I think it paves the way in the future for other outsiders. Whether on the left or the right. It's just they can't do what like Gabbard and Wang and Williamson are doing and trying to appeal to the media and tell because they go to the media and they're like, look, you guys aren't being fair to us, blah blah blah. And the media just kind of, steamrolls them. Like you can't be an outsider and do that. Like you have to basically make the media cover you. You can't appeal to them because the media does not care about fairness. They don't care about, making sure everybody gets. They don't care about the democratic process. They're machines, just like the DNC is, just like the Republican Party. They're machines. And they, they're going to go where they're told to go. They have corporate sponsors, they have advertisers, they have, all these different things. And, it's not like any of these journalists, if we look at like some of the journalists who have been fired over the last few years for like for not towing the corporate line, whether it's been Fox or CNN or MSNBC, we know that none of these people can say what they actually think. They have to say what they're being told to say, essentially. you know.
The media commentators?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know that they're told what to say. I think it's even more kind of insidious than that. It's that they're part of a system and an institution that they arrive there knowing what they're supposed to say.
That could be. I mean, I think that, see, I used to think that people like O'Reilly and Maddow and Hannity, like all these people, that they were putting on a show, right? That they were like,
Oh, there's definitely showmanship involved.
you know,
yeah.
and that whether you meet, because I knew somebody once who's very they were very liberal, and they worked on the Glenn Beck show in the production part.
Oh, is it a woman?
I can't remember who it was now. No, I think it was a man. I can't remember.
No, I don't know who it is.
But said that like they weren't like people at the show weren't hostile to like that it was part production, you know, that like that people were pretty like middle, you know, mellow and stuff like that with, you know, about stuff. But then I started like when Maddow wouldn't let go of the whole Russia thing, and now she's back, and now, you know, like,
yeah, and people compared her to Glenn Beck.
Well,
they weren't all face to back.
She's gone way. Yeah, she's gone.
I mean, I admittedly don't watch that show.
I don't either.
Or any of them, but I mean, I've seen like snippets of it.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this. Yeah, the stuff she was saying about Russia. It's like this feels like a news broadcast from like 1987.
Oh, I know. I mean,
Weird.
there was one show where she was saying that, you know, Russia could turn off the power in, you know, in the Midwest or whatever, where there were blizzard conditions. She's like, and people will freeze to death. Russia and Trump's, you know, it was like, oh my God, woman, like, whoa, whoa.
Yeah, and that's like the crazy like reactionary stuff that people are having about ISIS in 2015. Like, ISIS is gonna come into your small town in Ohio and install Sharia law, and your kids are gonna have to wear burqas and like all this crazy like irrational stuff. Like calm the fuck down. Like none of that's gonna happen. But yeah, like you said, I mean, it's a business, it's a machine, and you know, it's very interesting if you go back and look at Glenn Beck's career. I mean, he came out of kind of not like shock jock, like the zoo, like the morning zoo on radio.
Yeah.
He came out of that, and then he had a show on CNN, a television show on CNN, and back in the day. And if you watch it, came across pretty normal.
Yeah.
Very normal. And
Yeah.
I think that it's just like one of those things. Like you have to get more and more extreme to keep people's attention. You know, like how do you one up yourself?
Bill O'Reilly was the same way. You know, Bill O'Reilly, he was, if I remember right, because I used to watch him. It was like a crime show.
Papa Bear. It's a Stephen Colbert would call him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
No, it was like I think it was like a crime show or something.
Oh, really?
Yeah. It was. It wasn't like America's Most Wanted, but it wasn't. It was, you know, it was something else. I can't remember what it was. And then he became more of a newsman.
Mm-hmm.
You know, newsman, and then, you know, just kept on going. But I think that, you know, a lot of those people, especially the conservatives, I think a lot of them, even if they were somewhat conservative or whatever, they saw the opportunity in the
Getting crazier and crazier.
Well, it was. I think it was in the 90s, right, when something happened with communication laws with the FCC, with radio stations in general. I can't remember what the specifics of it, but all of a sudden, all these AM stations, like conservatives, were able to kind of take these AM stations and so started broadcasting. You know, like Rush and like a lot of those people got their start on AM radio when it was very small, but they were able to like make these inroads. And then conservative radio just started becoming very, very popular. You know,
It still is.
Well, right. But it was all AM at the time. You know, because that's sort of how they made their inroads. And I think that some people who are more opportunistic saw the opportunity there, that there was this market that was this growing market, and kind of filtered into it, you know. And then, you know, So, and it kind of brings up the question: why do you think? And I'd be curious about any viewers out there too, or anybody watching. Why do you think that conservative radio became so popular, but liberal radio never did, or that conservative, YouTube channels are tend to be way more popular than
Someone's
liberal?
saying it had to do with the repeal of the fairness doctrine.
Okay. Oh, right. That's right. That's right. Because the fairness doctrine said that both there had to be an equal amount of programming for each.
I believe it was something along those lines. Yeah.
Right. So did you hear the question? Why? Or do we want to catch up on stuff here?
No, I was just reading some of the comments. But your question: why do you think conservative radio got bigger than liberal radio?
And conservative, even now, conservative like YouTube, generally, is people watch conservative channels, whether they like them or don't like them. They watch them. Where there are very few liberal commentators compared to conservative commentators that people.
I mean, you're asking kind of like a very broad question, and about why this certain type of ideologically driven media appeals more than the other.
Yeah.
If I were to make a very broad comment about it, I would say that I think driving a very nationalistic message has much more appeal than a left-wing message trying to appeal to, let's say, multiculturalism or cosmopolitan urbanism. These are all kinds of like things that are like, okay, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, what is this really? I think nationalism is something that speaks to a much deeper place in people.
Yeah.
Rightly or wrongly.
Right.
I think it has a very deep drive for people, and I think that's largely the appeal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I also, in our current time, I also feel as though the conservative message tends to be more in line with the Constitution. And I don't think that's always been the case, and I don't think that will always be the case. I think that the parties flip-flop on that, that it tends to be more reactionary. I think as it stands, that...
I don't know. There aren't too many like constitutional Republicans nowadays.
No, I agree with that. No, I agree with that. But I'm just talking about more like the Bill of Rights and whatnot.
But I'm also partly talking out of my ass because I don't really listen to radio either.
Well, I don't either.
Yeah. So I mean, we're talking about some things, television and radio. I mean, I'm a Luddite, I guess. I mean, I still like read like newspaper articles. And get my news on online.
Yeah,
I'm reading from different news websites. So
I'm less of a Luddite and more of a Neanderthal, where I try
an iconoclast.
Yeah. But
eccentric, that's what we call it.
Exactly. Any questions popping up?
How much do you think media and social media are state-backed bots? Do you think, like how the Chinese military do state-owned business? Well, I mean, we know. I mean, the ones that are state-owned usually have to announce that they're state-owned. In America, under the Foreign Agent Registration Act, they have to register. So, like RT News is registered now. For a long time, we let them slide under the radar. Actually, during the Trump administration, when he came in, RT had to register. Some Chinese outlets had to register.
AJ Media.
Al Jazeera is state-owned,
Yeah.
BBC is, I don't think it's is it entirely public funded?
I don't
Or
know.
it might be a mixture of public and private?
I think it's a mixture, but I don't know for sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure either.
Yeah.
So there's a mix. In America, the only like state-owned media we have are like Voice of America, Voice of Radio Free Europe.
Mm-hmm.
Those are state-owned. The Broadcasting Board of Governors is kind of like over all of that kind of stuff. So that's kind of the closest we have.
Yeah. And I wouldn't say, like, in America, it's because of the separation of power, because of even within each branch of the government, the the conflict that occurs, like there's no one way for it to be state owned because there's no actual state message in America. You know what I mean? Like there's no.
Not yet.
Yeah. Right. There's no way to get lockstep. This is why the idea. So let's talk about conspiracies for a second. This is why the ideas of vast U.S. government conspiracies always sort of. I don't want to say they make me laugh, but the idea that. And I'm not saying that in our government, within certain parts of our government, there aren't conspiracies or haven't been conspiracies or or whatever. But the idea of a vast conspiracy where it's the government, it would be so hard to make something like that happen because there's so many working pieces. People talk about 9/11. Let's talk about 9/11 for just a second. And the idea that there was a conspiracy on 9/11.
A mega conspiracy.
So let's actually just talk about the most realistic aspects of that. That people said that either somebody from a special forces team or somebody from the CIA, a group from the CIA, some sort of American provocateurs, created the demolition, created the collapse of the buildings. So, and that Bush was behind it, right, or Cheney or somebody. So if you look at that at the most bare level, that means that Bush or Cheney or somebody would have to find a group of, a special forces team or a group of CIA contractors or operators, whatever.
You need like 100 guys
to do this. So first off, who do they task to go find these people? Do they go to themselves? Do they show up to Fort Bragg and go to the commanding general of one of the groups there and go?
And they're like, don't worry, look, we're going to make them sign this NDA. They'll never talk.
Right. So then then Cheney is sitting in front of an SF team, like 12 guys, and goes, hey guys, so we got this idea. We want this oil in Iraq or Afghanistan. So what we want you to do is kill around 10,000 Americans so that we can go get this oil. Everybody on board with that? You guys cool?
Yo, Joe.
Yeah, right. So the idea that all these people would just go, yeah, okay, let's, we've spent our lives defending America, defending the American system, but sure, let's go kill Americans for oil. Like that's the thing. When I've seen people like post stuff about, the mathematics of it and all this stuff. You don't even need to go that far. Just look at the human element. You're going to go to a bunch of patriots, right? Honestly, a bunch of people who like have spent their life defending America. And when you're talking about, if you're like, well, they were these nefarious CIA agents, they're the same people. All they are, they're just the guys who got a little bit older and then went into the CIA doing the exact same job.
Well, that's why the conspiracy theory people, they get like hyper technical, like going into all these little details. Like,
right.
Oh, no, they used thermite to bring down the towers. Oh, well, thermite doesn't work like that. Well, it was this sort of experimental nanothermite that does this, and it's like, dude, what the fuck? But they have to do that because if you start like thinking, actually thinking through how this would all work out,
right.
like it's obvious that it never could have happened.
Right. Well, and the other thing is that look, a special forces breacher or a special forces demo guy can bring down a bridge, but it is a career specialty to take down buildings. It is that's not a pee for plenty type of operation. You know what I mean? Like you have to know what you're doing. And so...
Yeah, there's a story about, it was somewhere down in North Carolina where they let the 18 Charlies and the instructors and the students go and demo a building.
Oh, yeah.
And they fucked it up.
Oh, 100%. Because what it would be like is...
it's not like blowing up a train junction or something. Yeah, there's a lot more to it.
You know what it would be like is that I remember the first time I was on target and had to break open a car window, right? And man, I had one of those awesome the CQD knives with the with the little carbon, so you can do that. But I had never broken a car window before, and I had never been trained on it. So I was like, so we were trying to get something from out of this, car. I was like, shh, like right in the center, and just it's safety glass. So just like a piece pops out, right? I'm like, oh, shh, shh. So then I'm sitting there like, shh, like knocking it all out, and finally, it all falls, and I reach and grab the thing. But then, somebody showed me how to do it finally, and it's just a strike down in the corner where the falls doesn't flex
as much.
So if you were to let a lot of Charlies, 18 Charlies, like blow up a building, it would be like that. It would be like putting Swiss, it'd be like Swiss cheese. It'd be like putting a bunch of holes in, because without knowing technically and having experience on how to do that properly, it's going to be a haphazard attempt.
I went to a course one time. I'm not even going to say what course it is because I'll embarrass some people. But the two instructors in this course were showing us how to break car windows. And they were like, oh yeah, I know you guys, you get taught that trick. You can break off the car antenna,
right,
and use it like a whip and smash the windows. Like, that's a myth. Don't believe that. Look, I'm going to show you. He takes the car antenna, goes up to the window.
That's not a myth.
And it just shatters.
Right.
He's like, oh, that's crazy. Goes up to the other window. No. You know what it is? It's the back window. It's just a tempered glass. It's a tempered glass. Goes up there, breaks the back window. It's like, oh man, maybe it was the windshield. It must have been the windshield. Goes up to the windshield, smashes the windshield. I'm like, oh my god, you guys. That's one of the things. As a first sergeant told us one time. He was like, when I was a platoon sergeant, we were breaching a mined wire obstacle in training, and I had all these rangers trying to use a grappling hook, and I had dudes like privates tied up in the concertina wire, like mummies and stuff. Yeah. And he was like, Colonel Puckett, who was an honorary colonel of the Ranger Regiment. He's an old man, but he'd still go out to these training events. He's like, yeah, he'd be like leaning over my shoulder, like, this would have worked better if you practiced it in rehearsals first.
Yeah. Yeah. That's funny. You guys didn't do the body breaches on those?
I never had to do that. I've heard the myths, the stories.
Oh, we did
the body breach.
We did it. Yeah. It was funny because you'd always.
That was the guy who showed up from RIP the week before, and you're like, "Hey, bud, got a job for you."
Exactly. And the thing is like, it's funny because you give them like the Skedco, which is it's all red rolled up. So the Skedco is a plastic sled for moving casualties. And it's hard, this really hard plastic, but it's rolled up. So you give him the Skedco. And what a body breach is you take your most junior guy, and he just runs and kamikazes on top of the concertina.
It's like triple strand concertina wire, like huge rolls that are like this big each, stretched out, one on top of the other.
Yeah. And so you take your most junior guy or two guys, and they just kamikaze on top of it, and then everybody and it works. But what's funny is you always give them the Skedco to make them feel better about it. Like, look, just unroll this, you just land on it, it won't go through the plastic, you'll be fine. The problem is the Skedco, because it was always rolled up, would immediately, as soon as they're like running and they let go of it to jump, it would roll up. So but yeah, body breaches work. Yeah. So anyway, how do we get on the topic?
Well, your point about 9/11 is that it's ridiculous that all these people would have conspired, and then none of it would have gotten out afterwards.
Right. That nobody would have talked about it. Nobody would have felt bad. Nobody would have talked about it. Because I think that especially for civilians, when you see. It was one of the problems we talked about with the Punisher, right? The way they framed his best friend, his brother, who turned around and tried to kill him for money. It's like, there's something that is mysterious and therefore at times nefarious to civilians when it comes to special operations.
It's like it's a closed off insular world, so you can imagine all these dark things happening.
Right. And the thing is that, there's more loyalty in that community in general. And I'm not saying there aren't outliers and shitbirds and everything else, but there's more loyalty in that community and more patriotism. Most of those people would never, the idea of killing other Americans or other, something like that would just be appalling to them. Yeah, it'd be appalling to them.
You know, my thoughts about conspiracy theories, you know, from having worked on, you know, uncovering stories people would rather not have uncovered, is that, you know, I think in the movies and everything else, conspiracies are like seen as this, like, you know, Hail Hydra, like there's this overarching ideology, this ideological conspiracy to do this and this and that. My experience with it is that, you know, conspiracies as they are, it's just like people trying. It's either about sex or money.
Yeah.
It's like people trying to cover up their corruption or their mistakes.
Right.
It's just really banal, petty bullshit.
Right.
You know, somebody fucked up and they're trying to hide it.
Right.
That's usually what it's about.
Right.
And then you have, that's where the cover up comes into play.
Right.
But it's not like, you know, I hear all this like stuff like George Soros is doing this and that, and it's like, dude, it's not really how like the world works.
Right.
Yeah, there's people out there trying to influence how we think and feel. But
do you not think that George Soros is funding a lot of the like Antifa or a lot of the sort of leftist stuff?
I've seen zero proof that he's funding Antifa. I mean,
yeah, no, that's true. That's true.
I mean, does he's, I think, what is it, like the National Endowment for Democracy, I think is one of his organizations. He funds all sorts of different organizations. Right. Absolutely. A lot of these billionaires do. Yeah. But I mean, that's still a far cry from like this like nefarious puppet master behind the scenes. Right. You know, I've even been accused of being like a George Soros puppet by like people on the interwebs. Like, oh, you're just shilling for George Soros. It's like, listen, man, here's the thing about selling out. When you sell out, you're supposed to get rich. Yeah, like, hey man, where's my check, George? Where's my check?
Well, I was actually trying to hold my temper there because I was like, you know, like you're getting money and you're not sharing it. Like,
what are you, a communist now?
What's going on? What? Pay me enough and I'll be a communist. Isn't that how communism works? Like, you aren't you supposed to get rich being a communist?
Look, when George Soros cuts me a check, I'll help you out, man. Nice. I will help you out.
Because communism for money. That's just a joke. I'm not, you know, but you know, then we could be Upper East Side socialist and
exactly
have bodyguards and try to get rid of gun laws while we have bodyguards and you know.
Someone's asking what's Dave's background. Inevitably, someone wants to know the backstory.
Sure.
So Dave was Marines, Navy, Army.
Yeah, I was a Marine reservist. Started out as a forward observer, and then but did that for a year when the first Desert Shield started. Wasn't going to deploy because I wasn't airborne qualified. I was in an Anglo-Co unit, so I jumped over to the Navy to be a Navy corpsman to go to war with the Marines. The war ended, I had to go back through boot camp. The war ended by the time I finished Corps school. So then I became a hard hat diver in the Navy and then got out for a while, worked in, you know, was in an SF guard unit, but wasn't SF. But, and then I was an Army Ranger. And then after that I went to DLI. I was at 2nd Battalion. Then I went to DLI for Arabic. And then started working contract stuff, a lot of paramilitary stuff. Went to Guantanamo Bay for interrogations. And then Afghanistan, then Iraq for the invasion, and then back to Afghanistan, Iraq, Afghanistan. So, a lot of paramilitary work after that.
I'm looking at a picture right now from Borderland Beat, Culiacan, Mexico. I don't know where that is, but like huge firefight. Like, look, it looks like fucking Baghdad out there.
Between who? Wow. Who?
Not sure. This is like happening right now. It's messed up down there, man. I mean, there's a lot of mythology about Mexico and all that, like Sicario BS, but at the same time, I mean, it's incredibly violent down there in parts of it. And I think they had more murders in Mexico than they did in Syria last year.
Really?
Like,
yeah.
Fuck that. That's pretty fucking insane if you think about it.
Yeah.
I remember I was in a class in college. It was like Intro to Comparative Politics, and we're covering failed states. And the teacher was like, the professor's like, okay, can you give some examples of failed states? He's like, yeah, you over there. I'm like, Mexico. Like, what? Mexico? Like, I've never heard anyone say that before. Like, why do you think Mexico's a failed state? And I was like, well, because, you know, the government doesn't have a monopoly on violence, which is the famous Weber definition of what a state is.
Right.
The state has the monopoly on the legitimate monopoly on violence within the territory of a defined, you know, borders of the state. And Mexico doesn't have that.
Right.
And he just thought, he looked at me like I was crazy. I don't know. I wonder if he looked at me like I'm crazy today.
Did he fail you? I mean,
No, I didn't fail. He didn't even know my name. I mean,
right.
It was a huge class, like 150 people.
Okay.
Yeah. But let's see what other questions there are here. Jack, with regards to guests, are you going to have some cool dudes like Nick Irving on and stuff? Yeah, that's absolutely. I mean, I don't know about Nick Irving. I haven't talked to him in a while, but I mean, definitely have. I have a list of people.
Yeah. So here's the thing with guests right now. Unfortunately, we're stuck with local guests until we figure out the tech aspects of getting Skype wired in. And I know that it shouldn't be that hard to get Skype wired in, but we're using. I know that, like, we know there's a program called Streamlabs that a lot of streamers use to bring people in, but we're using a new tech streaming deck. And we've had issues. We bought $1,000 software that they told us we've had issues in terms of.
It's something that should be relatively simple.
Yeah.
A relatively simple software solution.
Yeah, but you're talking to, 211 Bravos.
Yeah. That's part of it, and just to be completely straight up, I mean, as much as I think new tech makes a good product, I'm also kind of disappointed in them just trying to upsell us
everything. Instead
of helping us resolve the technical issues that we've had.
Yeah.
So yeah, again, that's why I need to get somebody in here who really knows this stuff.
Yeah. So like we have a number of people, great people, who we want to bring on, and some other people who have said they want to come on. But unless they're local, it makes it very difficult for us at this point in time, unfortunately.
What tips can Dave give on paramilitary work, security contractor work, how to get into it, do's and don'ts?
I mean, the easiest way to get into it is to have a solid military background. I mean, that's the simple.
You mean you don't go to Georgetown and then become an art dealer? And
I'm not supposed to talk about that. I can't talk about that until my book comes out.
Until your Q clearance, MJ12, your Majestic 12 clearance.
Exactly, my Majestic 12. Yeah. I mean, so at most of these, the idea that any organization is going to take you from like civilian status to some elite operator or whatever is, I mean, that's pretty much fiction. When places bring people on board, generally they're bringing people on board who already had those skills, so they already want a firm skill set to be established. You have to have a good hall file, which is basically just people who will vouch for you. So and say, this person's a good joke, they're fun, good to work with, reliable, things like that. So, because you have a lot of people in the spec ops community and whatnot who, even if they're good at their job, they're not necessarily great to work with, for whatever reason. They'll build on those skills a lot of times, or they'll keep those skills fresh, but you have to go with those skills. The idea that you can go in and they're going to train you up in these skills. These skills take years of constant use and training to hone, to get to a point where you can maintain them. Well, they don't have time for that. They don't have time to it's not like some Russian program where they bring you in as a child and you're not going to become the Black Widow.
Or if you're like in China and they like just clone you, you're like in a vat.
Right.
Come
out with the skills already necessary. But that's the number one thing. The number one thing is like having a solid background, having a JSOC background, and if you have that and you still don't know how to get into those things, you need to start asking around your communities, because there will be people who do know how to get those opportunities and whatnot.
Yeah, I feel like it's all like kind of like, even in the military, it's like kept somewhat mysterious,
right?
And there's also this aspect of the military. Everyone thinks like the grass is always greener. Like, there's those guys over there doing something cooler than I am.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah,
and they're probably thinking the same thing about you.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is that those things are kept mysterious. Whether it's the higher tier military units, or some of the paramilitary operations or whatever. They're kept mysterious a lot of times by means of necessity, right? Like they don't want everybody to know who they are or where they're at. Even within the communities, even the guys who were part of a community and become part of another community don't go around telling everybody about it and how to get into it. Because if all of a sudden this organization, you're not supposed to talk about it. And so if this organization starts getting besieged by these requests from people, it's one thing to make a personal introduction. It's one thing to say, hey, I have a friend, he's interested, can you call him, blah, blah, blah. But they can't go advertise, because if these organizations get besieged by people, like, hey, who the hell is talking about us? Or who the hell, who's spreading the word?
Well, there's good and bad aspects of it. I mean, it's a good old boys club, That's why they call it the Marine Mafia for the longest time.
It 100% is or can be the good old boy thing, but it's also, look, there are always going to be loose lips everywhere. So so for the guy who finds out about it and then doesn't get in, who's to say he's not going to go out and start running his mouth about about this thing going on. Yeah. If you look at like some of the early Army like intelligence operations and how secretive they were kept at all the time, because they didn't even want their existence to be known, because it's harder for the enemy, right, or whomever that is. It's harder for them to fight against the presidents they're not even aware about. That they're unaware of.
In the Army or in the military, I'd say like on the JSOC side of things, at least, like the path is actually made pretty clear to soldiers nowadays. Like there are briefers that will come and brief you.
Okay.
Like, okay, this is the advanced lane navigation course. This is the unit I represent. This is what our mission is. If you come to our selection course, this is more or less, what it's going to be like, and maybe this is what you want to be prepared for, or whatever. Right. So let's say you're a Ranger Battalion or SF. There's like one of two special mission units you're probably going to think about going to selection for.
Right.
And again, there's briefers that come and they have like come to our brief and they tell you what to do. And if you're interested, here are the next steps. Now I'm inviting conspiracy theories by saying this. So everyone knows about this like tier system, even though they don't know what the hell they're talking about when they talk about it. So like there's 1, 2, 3, and like 1 would be the JSOC guys, and 2 would be Rangers, and 3 would be like conventional. But even that's not true. Like there are fat civilians who are tier 1.
Yeah.
Okay? People don't get that. Like an aircraft carrier has a tier. Like they like try to use the tier system as like a badge of excellence, and that's really not what it is. But anyway, the point I'm getting at is there are like smaller intelligence programs that are like, in a way you could argue, are higher than tier 1. So it's like you operate at that level, and then you're being watched, and if people think you have potential for a certain program, then you get read on to something else. And now you're out here in left field,
right?
And you're working with credentials as a border patrol agent one day,
Right.
and then the next day you're an army major in Afghanistan, being sent places to collect information,
Right.
and do things.
Yeah.
So yeah, there is a whole other level out there that like people just don't really see because they're compartmentalized.
Right. And that like, so I need to, so for paramilitary, like the sort of the JSOC experience, the tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 stuff is important. And a lot of times it doesn't matter if you're coming from the vanilla side of that or the, you know, the sort of behind the fence side of that. For for the intelligence stuff, you know, it depends. Like if you go through the military, was it 97? Like interrogators, CI, counterintelligence, and linguists will often have opportunities available to them.
And MI is another one of those fields. Like I was saying, like the paths are very clear for like guys like me or you in soft.
Right.
Like, okay, you want to go serve in Delta or whatever. Like, here's what you do.
Right.
If you're in like MI, it's just like you have a good language proficiency. You're in good shape. You get 300 on your PT test. You know, you're doing well on exams. Like, there's no briefing. Like you just
they're actually if you go to DLI. There's a briefing
for the unit.
There's a briefing at DLI.
But I'm just saying that like for MI guys, they can get pulled into like these SAPs.
Yes.
There's no briefing for it.
Right.
They're like, okay, we'll take that guy.
Yeah.
So like the career route can be a much more nebulous experience. In that way.
Right. Yeah. Absolutely. And you know, and the military also has their. I mean, it used to be DHS until the Department of Homeland Service. Now it's just Defense Human. But they have paths very similar to like the CIA. They have paths very similar, like only it's done sort of in house. So it's not done in house. I take that back. Like there are opportunities. So.
Yeah, that stuff's, I mean, when people ask about that, I mean, all those opportunities, you want to go be, counterterrorism operator or paramilitary dude or whatever. I mean, those opportunities are out there. And, go be a MARSOC guy or a battalion guy.
I would never recommend anybody go like the Marine side. And the only reason I say that is just because of funding. Like the Marines are amazing. And when I say, I wouldn't recommend anybody do that. The Marines are amazing. They are just very. If you want to take these other paths, it's just that the Marines are a much smaller force. There are fewer in-house opportunities with the Marines.
That's for sure.
So in the Army, there are so many different branch paths that you can go. There are so many different ways you can go. Once you've done your time as a Ranger or as Green Beret or whatever else. In the Marines, they don't necessarily have those opportunities. So while the Marines is a phenomenal branch of service, and MARSOC or Force or any of these things, like I think they're excellent like operators and great dudes and everything like that. It's just there are fewer opportunities to keep going once you're in.
I'd agree with that. And speaking of the amount of different paths you can take in the Army.
Yeah.
So I was doing some research on this week. The Army has now gotten into eSports.
I'm going back into the Army. I am re-enlisting.
So if you guys, most of you guys probably know what eSports are, but if you don't, it's competitive video game playing.
Yeah.
Is what it comes down to. People on Twitch playing video games competitively. And there's big money in it now.
Huge money.
The industry as a whole made about $1 billion, or it's expected to make $1 billion this year.
I want to say that like outside of the United States, like especially like in Asia, it's like the largest spectator sport in the world right now.
It already has, in America, it already has more viewers than the NFL. Yeah. So this is an up-and-coming, rapidly expanding field. So the Army is like, well, this is where America's youth are.
Right.
So we need to show a presence. So the idea, they created an eSports Army team.
Yeah.
Wearing like Army jerseys.
Yeah.
They're gonna be like the Army Marksmanship Unit in the sense that part of the Army Marksmanship's charter is to go around the country and really around the world and represent the Army in competitions.
Right.
And it's partly to keep the Army's name out there, public engagement, and recruiting. So that like people see, they see the Golden Knights jump into parachute into a football stadium, like, oh, the Army.
Yeah.
Wow, maybe I should give that some thought. So this esports team is going to go out there and compete in competitive video games.
I honestly don't think that is, like, I'm not scoffing at that, because the Army has sports teams, like the military has wrestling, like wrestling and football. Well, those are part of the college, but there's an Army rugby team. There's
Army band.
The band, yeah, exactly. So it's not, it's not like, oh my God, it's like, okay, it makes sense.
Yeah. And actually, I found out that I was looking at a picture, and I found out it's true. So there's a picture from this conference this week of the Army esports team, and the guy has a Ranger DUI tattooed on his forearm. Yeah, I found out. Yeah, he is a Ranger battalion dude, and he's like one of the top rated players in whatever game it is he plays.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and so he's on the esports team. I'm not sure if they're playing competitively yet. I think they're supposed to start maybe in early 2020.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's a thing.
Yeah.
Just like AMU or the Golden Knights.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be out there competing.
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
That'll be interesting.
Yeah.
So a new path. A new path.
Yeah, and it's just another example of all the like weird, unexpected things that you'll be able to find in the military.
Yeah.
If you go looking for it.
So did that answer the question?
Yeah. The guy actually said, "Thank you, Dave, for the in-depth answer."
Yeah.
Definitely going to get stick time with deployments. Definitely increase the ACFT numbers. Oh, so I think we talked about this, didn't we? The Army Combat Physical Fitness Test.
You said there was something new, but I don't think you talked about it.
It was well, people are failing it in general, like pretty strong. Like it's a man killer, but it's especially a woman killer. And something like 84% of women issued the test have failed so far.
Wait, is this a new test? Or?
Yeah, it's new.
Okay, because I thought they dropped everybody's standards.
It's gender
neutral.
Yeah, right. So there's no like gender norming going on.
Right.
So like all that it's just one.
Well, why would women be feeling it worse? Because women are as physically capable as men.
Twitter told me that men and women are exactly the same in every way. So I believe that.
Right.
There are no differences between the sexes. So it seems that there's no reason for there to be different standards, right?
It must be sexist somehow.
And well, obviously, if 84% of women are failing the test, it's obviously a sexist test.
Yeah,
That's the problem.
100%.
It's the patriarchy, and whoever creates and grades the test just hates women.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it.
Yeah.
Case closed.
Yeah.
The new Army PT test, it's like 6 events. The Army Combat Physical Fitness Test, it's 6 events. There's the pull-up, because you have to have pull-ups, like, come on. 2 minutes of push-ups, that's still there. But there's a deadlift. There is it's like a ball toss, like it's like a medicine ball that they have toss over their head. There's kind of like a litter drag.
Yeah.
Where they have to first carry kettlebells and then go back and grab like a weighted sled and drag that.
Yeah.
There's some good stuff in there. And then there's the leg tuck. So it's like you're hanging from a pull-up bar.
Yeah.
And you have to use your abdominals and bring your knees up to your elbows.
Yeah.
And a passing score is like 7.
Okay.
And that was the one that really like wiped out a lot of men too.
Sure.
But especially wiped out the women.
Sure. Wow.
Yeah, and so I saw all these whiners like, like, when are you going to do a leg tuck in combat? It's like, well, motherfucker, when are you going to do a push-up or a sit-up? Or really, I've never run 2 miles in combat.
Yeah.
I don't know, have you?
No. But I've done long ass walks in combat.
Yes, so yeah, absolutely.
But I've never run 2 miles in combat.
Yeah, like
if I run 2 miles in combat, everything went to hell.
I bet on target, I've probably ran 500-600 meters.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever run a mile.
Yeah.
Maybe half a mile at the most.
Yeah.
At the most.
Even 500 meters is like, I mean, under full combat load, like.
It's a lot.
It's a.
Yeah, you'd be smoked.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the point of the leg tuck is grip strength, flexibility, and abdominal strength.
I mean, to me, like a leg tuck makes a ton of sense. Like, I'm trying to think if there, I mean, a leg tuck is very functional. You know, it's like I can think of times in combat, maybe not doing an actual leg tuck, but where those particular muscles are.
And that's the point of the PT test. Otherwise, the tested PT events should be like, you know, well, see, here's in Ranger Battalion, our sergeant major created the, I think it was like the RPAT, that's what it was called. The Ranger Physical Assessment Test. And, okay, so I'm gonna have to remember, it was in full kit. The entire test was in full kit. And the start was you run 2 miles, then once you got like no rest, okay, you get back, climb a rope, come back down. Then there was I believe there's a sprint, and then you come back and you climb the caving ladder, come down, then there's a litter drag, and then after the litter drag you go over like an 8-foot wall.
Yeah.
And once you come down on the other side of the wall, that was the end of it.
Yeah.
So that was like an internal test that we did in Ranger Battalion. It was like combat focused.
Yeah.
But you know, if the point, yeah, obviously you're never going to do push-ups or sit-ups in combat.
Right.
That's not the point.
Right.
It's to train certain muscle groups
right.
that you're going to use in combat.
Right.
But I mean, if that's the standard you're going for, then okay, let's put all these soldiers in full kit and give them a fucking basic load of ammo and make them fucking do a stress shoot or something like
right.
that. And that's your PT event.
Yeah. I mean, stress shoots are
awesome.
Yeah, and they're the most realistic thing. I mean, I think that things like doing what's the move like if you're coming up to a service and you have to pull yourself up and onto it.
Oh shit! Yeah,
you know what I mean.
You're like on the pull-up bar and you come up. And
yeah. Like if I were on this, you know, and pull, you like I think that things like that are, you know, that kind of functional strength, especially. But again, we're talking about like Afghanistan. We're talking about Iraq. You know, if our next war is another Vietnam, another jungle environment, then the standards will change again.
Yeah, you look at the dudes in Vietnam; they're all these like wiry, skinny dudes.
They all look like they came out of Ranger School.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? Honestly,
but guys in like Rhodesia, like saying, like these like wiry dudes.
Yeah. You know, I mean, the physical build that is functionally effective for CQB or MOUT,
or carrying 90 pounds of gear,
is much different than it would be for a jungle-based, Vietnam or something like that. I mean,
and I heard tales of a certain special mission unit that did an operation down in Colombia, and the operation got canked, so they tried to spin it into a training exercise. And all of them went down as heat cats in like 5 minutes. Yeah. Because they went out there wearing their like plate carriers. Yeah. Like they were back in Afghanistan.
Yeah. I mean, I look after wearing a plate carrier for so long, if you went to a jungle environment, I mean, how would you feel not having your plate carrier? You know, like it'd be weird. It'd feel weird.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's the thing, too, is now it used to be you just wear body armor for urban operations.
Right.
Now it's you wear body armor for everything.
Right.
And commanders are like, well, you know, it gives you 80% more survivability, so why would you not wear it? It's like, well, okay.
Yeah.
Our studies show that you don't even feel that you're wearing body armor when you're in a firefight. It's like, well, yeah, no shit, but what
But your body still, well, and that's the thing, is like, I mean, can you imagine trying to go to or do an immediate action drill, squad react to, in a jungle or whatever, wearing full, I don't know. It'd be interesting.
And I mean, if we do go back to the jungle, I guarantee you that like the first year, that's what it's going to be like. Where's your helmet, troop?
Yeah.
Get that bandana off. Get that drive-on rag off your head.
Yeah, exactly. Why are you wearing that booty cap? The Army issued it to me. It's not authorized. It's like, okay.
Yeah, it'll be exactly like that. All right, what else is going on here? No, I don't know if anyone has any other questions, because we've been streaming for 98 minutes. We start wrapping it up in a few minutes, telling all these lies, all these war stories.
Yeah.
Let me see the card. Is there anything else on there?
Oh, is this? Is
That
is?
was my my good idea fairy card.
Yeah, again, sorry for not having another guest line.
We
with you
talked
guys.
about all this, yeah.
We want to have guests every episode, really, because I mean, there's only so much that Jack and I can talk about. We talk about the news and stuff like that, and you know, we can drink Lafroig every week, and, but we want to have guests on here all the time. We just really need to get this technical issue worked out, and we're working on it. Trust us.
Yeah, we will get it ironed out. We have a whole thing. Oh, somebody wants to know Wellington versus Washington, who would win? Man, I have no fucking idea.
I don't either, man.
That's like, you need to talk to the History Channel.
Washington would lose every battle and then somehow pull it out. I don't know.
What does a Special Forces warrant officer do, and who is selected for that MOS? So, like, technically it's not MOS because we go to warrant officer school. Well, they go to the fake warrant officer school in Bragg. They don't go to the WOC anymore.
Oh, really?
Down in Alabama.
Yeah,
Fort Rucker.
Yeah.
But the warrant officer is they do like long-term planning, long-range planning for the team, and also second in command. So like split team operations, they would become one of the commanders.
They're sort of like an XO in a way, right?
Yeah,
like a team XO,
basically.
And also, if you don't know, the intelligence community, the military intelligence, like Army intelligence, well, I think all intelligence, all branches of intelligence, they also have warrant officers. So warrant officers are generally aviation, special forces, and intelligence. Is that it though? Are there
there are others
warrants in like artillery and stuff like that?
I don't know about artillery. There aren't infantry.
Right, there are not in infantry.
But there are like I believe like in the conventional army there are warrants who are like in charge of pieces of equipment.
Okay, warrants are generally considered like technical experts, basically. Yeah. So that's why a lot of the warrants are pilots or whatnot. But there are also warrants who are in the intelligence community, and it's a really good route to go if you go into military intelligence. Is the warrant route.
Yeah, Jim West was like the first generation of warrants.
Oh, really?
In SF.
In SF?
In SF, yeah. Wasn't Delta's original base in a prison? Yes, it was. It was a stockade at Bragg. How long until war with China? 10, 20 years? I mean, never. It's always difficult to predict the future, but I don't think it's going to happen in the next 5 years, but I think it is going to happen.
I don't know. It'll be interesting because there's so much. Yeah, there's so much economic
Yeah, it's without a doubt an incredibly complicated topic.
I mean, China owns so much American property and so much American it's. They have so much vested business interest. I don't know if it would actually come down to a full scale war, or if they could just basically, take over economically somehow. I mean, they own some of our ports, don't they? Don't they own the Long Beach port?
Not our ports, but in other countries they do.
Okay.
Like Pakistan, Sri Lanka, Panama. They're yeah.
I thought they bought Long Beach for some reason.
Not to my knowledge.
I could be wrong.
They leased it.
Oh, that could be. I could be wrong.
I could be wrong.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what. Not to my knowledge. I don't say that much. But it's all just risk analysis. If they think they have this much to gain and only this much to lose, they'll go ahead and do it.
I don't know that they would need war because honestly, we're such an open country and they're such a closed country. They have so much more access to us, to our technology, to our population, to everything.
I think you're right that they see it that way. They don't want to have a war.
Right.
They are being very aggressive.
Right.
And bullying basically everyone around them, but they're not being overly aggressive as if they want to start a conflict.
Sure.
Now, there's always the potential, though, it could happen accidentally. Like, we both stumble into conflict. Like,
Sure.
Like, let's say their risk analysis and our risk analysis are off.
Right.
And, like, we think we can do this and China won't respond. And China thinks they can do this and we won't respond.
Right.
That's how you end up in a war very quickly.
Right.
With, because each side made some bad moves.
I feel like if their economic policies or their economic power over us ever threatens our sovereignty, I think that might be a trigger to it.
Yeah, I mean, there could be many, but
anyway.
I think something bad is going to happen there eventually, but I mean, I don't think it's like imminent. Like it's going to happen, in the next year or so.
Yeah.
Guys, thank you for tuning in today. Please subscribe to our channel if you haven't already, and hit that little bell icon so you get the notifications when we go live the next time around. And also, please check out our Patreon page if you have the chance, where I'm uploading exclusive video interviews that I've done over the years that no one's ever seen before other than me, and obviously the person who I interviewed knows what they said. Otherwise, I've never done anything with them. So I'm putting those up. Those are just like a treasure trove of information and just really cool stories. Someone's telling us we should get drunk again next time. Maybe we will.
Was that okay? Like, yeah.
So yeah, please subscribe if you're not subscribed. Please consider making a small donation to the stream so we can keep doing this and keep the lights on.
Yeah.
And we really appreciate all you guys tuning in. I will also get the podcast up. I've been turning the audio from the stream into a podcast every week, so I'll have the link up for that as well.
And for those of you who have not visited the Patreon, just so you know, like $1 a month, $5 a month, whatever it is, like every little bit helps us right now as we build this studio, as we build this experience. We really do want to bring on some more guests, especially get them piped in from wherever they are.
Yes.
We want Patrick O'Donnell,
We have a mystery X guest. Mysterious Mr. X.
Yeah.
Who we're just working out his schedule. But he already agreed, said he'd do it.
Yeah.
And it'll knock my socks off.
It'll be fascinating.
Yeah.
All I can say is it will be a show in which neither Jack nor I are in control of.
I was like trying to explain to people, like when I say I have a special like mystery guest, like they're probably thinking, oh, you're gonna have like Admiral McRaven or like General McChrystal on. Like no. Those guys wouldn't give me the time of day.
Yeah.
But we do have somebody else, and
who is well, actually.
It'll be more entertaining. I guarantee you that.
Yeah.
It'll be more entertaining.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to it.
But yeah, like I said, we've got guests lined up. Patrick O'Donnell has already agreed to be on once we can pipe him in. He's written a number of books on the OSS, the Rangers, Washington, like the Revolutionary War. Phenomenal historian. Just a number of people. And so once we get all this worked out,
I'm gonna hit that dude up, and we'll see if I can get him in here this week or not this week. It's too late. Next week or next weekend.
Yeah.
And finally hash this stuff out because we do. I have a whole list of guests and like people who are willing and like able to come on. Anytime. It's just we need to hammer out some of this shit. And at this point, there's no excuse. This is like episode 10. Like this shit should be straight.
It's episode 11.
Episode 11.
Check yourself.
Jesus. Yeah. So like people are starting like, God damn it, get your shit together, Jack.
I know.
Jack, when's your beard oil being released?
Are we gonna do a beard oil?
We could do beard oil.
I'm down.
Actually, I was thinking for merch. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to get this. I had you in mind. Either a sticker or a button or both that says "slightly problematic."
I like it.
I had you in mind when I thought of that, Dave. I was like, "Slightly problematic." I could get a little pin on your shirt.
I like it.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that a lot. But a beard oil, like maybe like made from Wolverine fat.
Yeah. Essence of Murphy.
Yeah.
Kind of scares me that there's someone out there that would pay for that.
oh, they'd be buying it too. We're not just gonna
Like give it away?
No, I just figured we'd make it and nobody would ever buy it, but we have a product.
All right, guys.
All right, guys, thank you very much. Thanks for tuning in, and see you next week.
Yes, we'll see you next week, next episode 12.